Okay, welcome everybody. I am very excited to have a special guest with me today, Michele Finey. Now, Michele Finey has just published, literally hot off the press, her latest book, a third book actually, called The Test of Time. I keep saying The Test of Time. Oh, yeah, it is the test of time. I keep thinking, is it the test? Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just move that.
Yeah.
There it is. And
Yes.
just done a wonderful job putting it all together for me. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah.
Great process, and I really enjoyed the writing of it too, which was during lockdown. And
yeah,
I found it sort of really good to be able to have to focus on a project because I couldn't go out anywhere.
Yeah.
So every day I'd get up and I'd be very diligent and I'd do my bit and then some editing and then knock off at about lunchtime and I really enjoyed putting it together, and it's a topic I wanted to write about.
Yeah, you've been talking about doing it for years, haven't you, really?
Yeah. I eventually got round to it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes being Melbourne, the most lockdown city in the world, for a lot of people, it was a great chance to do those sorts of things that they've been talking about forever. But for a lot of people, it had the opposite effect.
Yes.
A lot of people just started watching lots of Netflix and kind of becoming a bit like a sloth. But let's go backwards in time a little bit, Michele. Tell us a little bit more about how you became an astrologer, like how you became interested in astrology. And
I guess my background is from a bit of an eccentric family, and there was an interest, I think, generally in astrology within my family. A number of family members, my grandfather, for example, he was an artist by the name of George Finey, and he sort of had this idea that we're born with a blueprint and go through life filling it in. And he'd often say that. He was a bit of a philosopher too. He had, some good ideas about different things and a bit of an interesting worldview. So that was, a general vibe around the family. My mother too, she wasn't an astrologer, but she bought quite an interesting little astrology book, which is quite a detailed book. When I was about 10, she had the idea somehow that I might need it one day. She never could really explain why she bought it. It was very intuitive. In fact, I think I might have it here. It cost $1.
Oh, wow.
And published in 1969, I believe, by Ronald Davidson. So it's quite a small little book.
Yeah.
But it is actually quite, you can calculate charts from it and tells you about the houses, the signs, the planets, aspects. It's quite it's not the sort of book she was ever going to read,
Yeah, that's really interesting that she had that sort of, I don't know, insight to who you might be, or
I know. It was kind of, I don't know quite. She was very intuitive.
Yeah.
Like that. Actually, she bought me other books through the years too, funnily enough, which I found most useful. One, when I turned 50, she bought me a book called about Chiron, which is a planet that has a 50-year orbit, and she didn't know it had a 50-year orbit. Like it was a birthday gift sort of thing, but she didn't know any of that. She just bought me this book, and it was just so totally appropriate. So I'm not quite sure how. But of course, Linda Goodman's Sun Signs was another major influence when I was about 10 or 11. Well, I was about 12 maybe when that was published.
I feel like that, for myself, I feel like that was the book that kind of crossed over from people being interested in astrology to the more mainstream person. In terms of,
And it was so well written.
Yeah.
You could pick up a chapter and read a chapter really about somebody I found. It just sort of.
I have a feeling I have a copy of it. Yeah.
I think everybody's got a copy of it. So that was another influence. And, just generally, I think growing up sort of through the 70s, there was that sort of new age sort of thread that there was a bit of a renaissance around astrology.
Yeah.
Through that time, through the 60s, 70s. So all of those things, I think, led me towards studying astrology, which I first really started doing, properly studying astrology when I was about 20.
Yeah. Cool. In terms of, I'm just going to find the cover. I'm just going to read a bit of your cover. Sorry, I've lost you. Where have you gone? There you are. I've got two screens here, so I was like, oh. I'm just going to read the back cover blurb for people. It won't come in front of me. Okay, I'm going to be looking a little bit to the sides.
That's okay.
From time to time, planets appear to stop, turn retrograde, then stop again when they resume forward motion. How should astrologers interpret motionless planets? What challenges and opportunities do they symbolize? Now, can you tell me, for anyone who might be listening, what does retrograde mean?
Okay, it's all the planets move in the same sort of ecliptic area, like where the sun and the moon, so I mean, obviously we're moving too, but in a band of sky called the ecliptic. And they do only move in one direct motion, but they appear to move backwards from time to time because of the fact that of our relationship to the sun from the earth and where the planets are in relation to that.
Yeah.
So from time to time, all of the planets and asteroids, not the sun and the moon, but everything else, appears to have this backward motion from time to time.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like a loop effect. So at given periods, they will sort of stop in that motion or appear to stop.
Yeah.
It's only apparent from our perspective on Earth. But it's been a real interest of mine for some time, how do you interpret these? And through the ages, there's been a number of different views from different astrologers as to how you should interpret stationary planets. And these days, I think most astrologers are of the view that they're quite powerful symbols because it's sort of like, and why I've called the book, I think, The Test of Time, is because it sort of amplifies that moment, if you think of it that way. If you think of, the passage of the sun and the moon and all the planets as, how we measure time, as day to day, day and night, that they're always moving or through the yearly cycle. If you think of these little moments when they appear to stop, it's as if that moment is amplified or accentuated.
Yeah.
So from that, I sort of had been interested in this topic for a long time and wrote an article about it some years ago and had been collecting a lot of more data and research over the years.
Yeah.
That I'd been meaning to put into a book, but it wasn't until middle of last year, in fact, that I sort of started putting that all together.
Yeah. And in your book, you talk about using this information for personal development. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Well, astrology is kind of a marriage of, psychology, guidance. You can use it in many different ways. There are astrologers who focus more on traditional, more fatalistic approach to astrology, but there are also many, like myself, who look at it from more of a psychological perspective. And, if you think of the fact that, we're born with this sort of blueprint and then we go through time, it's this concept of as above, so below, which is an astrological standard, I guess, tenet that's been around for forever. This idea of connection. So it's not so much that the planets sort of compel us or, push us in a particular direction. It's not so much fated as the perception really is that there's this just a synchronicity, if you like, or a connection.
Yeah.
That there's a reflection or a symbolism that ties the two together. So as above, so below, it can help guide our decision making and our development.
Yeah.
When we look at the planets, obviously when we're born, we're born with a chart, but we're not conscious. We're very much, we have that blueprint, and then over time, different aspects of that chart or our personality will develop, and you can mirror the two and see, the different signposts and challenges and tests and opportunities when they come along. So it's a great tool, astrology.
Yeah.
Facets to it.
And you use lots of really interesting case histories within the book. Is there a particular one that really was more fascinating than another to you? I'll probably put you on the spot there because there's lots of people mentioned in the book.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones, and particularly looking at the lunar phase returns I found really interesting, because there was just a lot of congruence there. It's probably a bit technical to explain, but one of them in particular is Helen Keller. I found really fascinating looking at her chart. Mary Shelley was another one. Some of the events in her life. She was published when she was just 19. Frankenstein. That was really an extraordinary story in itself. We've got Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin were born on the same day, same year. And they both had obviously the same planet stationary. Uranus. And both of them, very scientific, focused and forward thinking, which is very much the archetype of that planet, Uranus, which was suddenly discovered in 1781. So you get these there's many case histories that are interesting, and the more I delved into it, the more interesting you'd find different threads that sort of tied it all together with the station planets. So
that's great. So in terms of, so this book, The Test of Time, how it feels like it's very timely, for want of a better word, to come out now. What do you feel, or how do you feel this is going to be, relevant, I guess, to this year for us? Because, we've had a couple of years, pretty much right on 2 years of pretty not fun time. How do you see what's sort of happening?
Well, from a big picture perspective, when the pandemic was declared, there was a couple of major aspects happening in the sky, and there was a bunch of stationary planets happening right at that moment, and they were all in not a very pleasant configuration. So that was also the time when we had the fires. Just horrendous. So it was not a great time, and I know a number of astrologers were looking at that chart thinking, this doesn't look good. Obviously, it's a symbolic language, so you can't predict specifics. You've got to look at the symbols and try and work it out. But we knew it was going to be a difficult time. Coming through now, we've got some, I think, quite positive opportunities just starting up February, March. We're looking at a Venus-Mars conjunction coming up, with two of them actually, over the next couple of months, February and March. And my second book was about that topic, about Venus-Mars conjunctions, and so I've done a bit of research on that topic as well. I think that is looking really positive. Big picture sense of things. Obviously, there's always challenges, and each individual will have different circumstances. But in the big picture scheme of things, I'm feeling quite positive about this year, actually.
Good.
Hopefully this pandemic will become endemic or peter out, or we've got much more tools now to deal with it. So hopefully that will be the case.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for having a chat today. I will put some information underneath this video when I've posted it online for people to look into more of what, because you've got other books and you've got calendars and events and all sorts of things. You've got a big year this year already. Yes. But yeah, I find it really fascinating, even though, you know, sometimes for the layperson, it's a language we need to learn. So it's good to have someone like you to explain things a little bit for us, and you do that quite well. So I really encourage people to have a look at it, because it's, you know, it's really interesting. And like you say, with personal development, it's not about trying to predict the future or something. It's about trying to learn about ourselves, use these different tools to learn about ourselves and how we make decisions and how we function in the world. And I think, you know, as many tools as we can get is fantastic. And even just to become a bit more self-aware about how we function and how we react to things, or whether we respond to things, and, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
There, definitely. That's I think, you know, the benefit and the beauty of astrology, that you know, it's like a map.
Yeah.
You know, it helps to have a map to know where we're going, you know, and we can then decide, you know, what route to take and learn about things as we go along. So,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for having a chat.